Now, Sir Simon Mayall, former British Army officer and MOD advisor, joins us. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this has been building for some time, hasn't it? It seems to me that we probably have taken proportionate action targeting military sites. Unsurprisingly, the Houthis have responded saying that's not going to be the end of it and this isn't going to stop us from what we're doing, disrupting cargo in the Red Sea. So where do we move next on the sort of four-dimensional chessboard?
Well, I think Tobias was quite right to talk about the importance or significance of Iran in this. The Houthis got their own problems. They're fighting, of course, against a Saudi Arabian coalition, although we had hopes that we were going to come to some sort of negotiated ceasefire or whatever in Yemen. They've got their own fight against Sunni separatists in the south, Al-Qaeda there, of course, a Sunni fundamentalist group, Islamic State, humanitarian, as I've referred to. They have no stake, frankly, other than gesturing support for the Palestinians and Hamas in starting another front in the Red Sea. They've been put up to this by the Iranians. And the strikes against their capability are going to alter the balance of power within Yemen. So a lot depends on how much, although we are the headline countries carrying out these strikes. Tobias, again, is quite right to say that we are members of we're key players on the UN Permanent Security Council. We're guarantors via that of the international rules-based trade, maritime trade. Every country in the world is going to suffer in one way or another from this Houthi activity. The key is to get to Iran and say, you have just called off your Houthi attack dogs. The Houthis really don't have a stake in this other than the wider game that's been played out as a proxy war between the Sunni and Shia and the Iranians and some of the Arabs in the Middle East. And we've got to stop this looking like it's a UK-US attack, either in support of Israel and Gaza, etc., or some sort of ideological battle. This is on behalf of rules-based maritime trade.
Simon, tell us a little bit about the Houthis and their military prowess, their military force, if indeed those two factors exist. They're vowing, terrible revenge for last night's airstrikes. You'd expect that. What are their capabilities to inflict harm on our forces out there and perhaps back here in terms of terrorist attacks? How much should we be worried about the Houthis?
The Houthis are part of they're a Shia minority group. Zaydis, I don't want to overcomplicate it. So they're in a minority group in the Middle East. The vast majority of Muslims, vast majority of Arabs are Sunni. But they're aligned by their Shiism, a sort of minority group within Islam with Iran, who are Shia. As I say, they have been used as a proxy in the war between Iran, or the undeclared war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. They've been quite well equipped. As you know, they've had the capacity to use drones and ballistic missiles against the Saudis. They did attack Abu Dhabi at one stage. They've certainly fired missiles in the direction of Israel. They have some anti-sea missiles. They had some helicopters. I suspect they're all gone. They've got a rudimentary air defense system. I wouldn't want to fight them myself on the ground. They have centuries of being a very, very tough tribal mountain people. Very, very aggressive, very, very hardy folk. But undoubtedly, the attacks will have degraded their capability. And will send a strong message to them that actually, in the balance of power against the Saudi coalition and the southern separatists, you're again stand a very good chance of losing your bases in Sana'a. So I suspect the Egyptians are going to begin to get very interested now, because the Egyptians make a huge amount of money. Very important part of their revenue are obviously the tariffs they charge for ships crossing through the Suez Canal. And I suspect the Chinese will be, again, warning the Iranians not to widen this conflict. So, as Tobias said, we have acted, I think, proportionately, necessarily, etc. And we will wait and see what the Houthis can do. There's always, dare I say, the lone wolf. I don't think an organized attack here, but you will always get sympathizers who at least have the intent, even if they haven't got the capability, to inflict something horrific.
I'm glad you brought up China, because it's funny, isn't it, that these very long-range anti-ship ballistic missiles that can travel around 2,000 kilometres have only ever really been seen before being used by the People's Liberation Army of China, and one must question their provenance and how they got into Houthi hands.
Well, I have a sort of rather hackneyed expression, which is, if you want to understand this problem, you've got to get yourself a bigger map. And although we're all looking at Hodeidah, Sada, Sana'a, even the Red Sea, even the Gulf, you've just got to keep opening it up. Obviously out to Iran, obviously up into Putin's Russia, and then out to, dare I say, other rogue states like North Korea, who watch the West's reaction with interest. And certainly China is a very, very big influencer on the policy in Tehran. And again, a lot of people will be going to Beijing, who have a stake, of course, in keeping maritime traffic rolling as smoothly as it was until quite recently, in saying to the Chinese, do whatever you can to put pressure on Iran to call off their attack dogs on this particular issue. So I think the narrative that Tobias referred to, I think is important. We are not doing this as America, Britain attacking the Houthis as a result of either what they're doing within Yemen or even the wider Middle East. We're doing it because the Houthis are threatening the absolutely vital maritime arteries of global trade.
Thank you, Sir Simon Mayall, former Army officer and Middle East advisor to the Ministry of Defence.